I was hard on Jimmy Garoppolo, but I thought it was interesting. Niner fans were very, very charitable with Jimmy Garoppolo. God love him. And I thought in a loss where they scored 14 points against a bad defense, most Niner fans felt, hey, you know what? Jimmy balled out today. So let's start with Jimmy Garoppolo. What did you think of Jimmy Garoppolo in this game? And I guess in this game.
Immediately after, my response was C+. But honestly, I watched it again last night, and I'm thinking maybe even a B-, especially if I'm grading on a curve for Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah.
He's doing Jimmy Garoppolo things. If you like Jimmy Garoppolo coming into the season, you're going to like him now. If you didn't like him, you probably don't like him now either. But what I like about Jimmy, he's ranked, I think, number 5 in the NFL for big time throws. So we are seeing that difference with him throwing the ball a little bit downfield, which I love. Now, they're all a little off. Some of them are off a little bit. But, I mean, you got guys dropping balls. Like, I believe it was Ray McLeod dropped one he probably should have had. Now, if Danny Gray was there, I don't know why he wasn't there, but if he was,
no idea. Yeah,
that might have been a catch.
Yeah,
and then the one to Ayuk where I think it was Jake Brendel just got completely ran over, and they called it a hold. I think it was Brendel. It probably wasn't a hold; he just got trucked. But that would have helped as well. I mean, Jimmy, he's not like top-notch, amazing quarterback at all. I don't think he's changed as a quarterback. He is letting it fly a little bit more, which I like. He's giving guys opportunities to make a play. Yeah. But really, I just didn't think the playmakers made plays yesterday. I'm not a Jimmy fan, but I thought he played good enough yesterday to win the game. I think it was more other things.
All right, let me defend my D grade, because I'm not just going to come here the next day and be like, you know what, I was a little tough. No, I'm standing by my grade. I gave him a D. I'm going to stick by the D. So here's why I felt he deserved a D. He did do well in the first 3 quarters. The first half, they moved the ball, scored points. I felt he was mostly like throwing screens, and that's fine. But I didn't, the air yards in the first half were not there. The big plays came later, or the drops down the field, and those were nice throws. The one he had to Ray was a nice throw, and the one to those two were really nice, and they should have been big completions. But even with those completions, I'm not sure the Niners win this game because they scored no points in the second half, and Jimmy was terrible in the fourth quarter. Let me just go through it real quick. First play of the first quarter, he has Ayuk open running the deep post, and he's open. All he has to do is lay it out there for him. Put it out in front of Ayuk. Instead, he underthrows it and it's broken up. That's the first throw of the fourth quarter. Next play, picked. The classic Jimmy pick, forcing it over the middle. Then he gets the ball back and he does that ridiculous, really long drive. And maybe that's Kyle Shanahan's fault. But dude, you've been in the system for 6 years. How do you do that? So anyway, here's the drive. It's a bunch of screens and stuff. Then he had the hold from Brendel was on that. That was a nice throw. But 2 plays after that, he almost gets picked by Rashaan Evans. Remember that? Then down the line, 2nd and 1. So okay, they're at the 18. They're close. They're right there. Down. Were they 7 at that point? They don't.
14.
They're down 14 at that point. Okay, yeah. So they're right there on 2nd and 1 from the 18. He has Kittle open in the end zone, rolling right and overthrows him. Then on 4th and 1, he throws an incomplete. At 4th and 1, make a play, scramble, do something. Yeah. But he can't make a play. His quarterback rating in the fourth quarter was 70. I mean, to me, that's Jimmy. Like, if he has a great defense and the defense can seal it, he'll win. If he has a great run game and the run game can seal it, he'll win. But if the game is close and he has to pass in the fourth quarter, more times than not, they're going to lose. So, yeah. I mean, it was a bad defense. Like, one other thing. People talking about the Niners and their injuries. That Falcons defense didn't have A.J. Terrell. They didn't have both their cornerbacks. Like, come on, man. You scored 14 points against the Falcons defense, and you want me to praise you? So that's how I felt about it. It was like, D, you failed. And with the pick, I understand the first pick it didn't really hurt the team, right? It was at the end of the first half. It was embarrassing that he couldn't get a Hail Mary to the end zone, and he threw, a 20-yard pass in triple coverage. Like, what was that going to accomplish? He's lucky it wasn't pick 6. But because I was returning for he took all the way across the field and was lucky someone didn't get hurt. Anyway, that was the worst Hail Mary of all time, but really didn't hurt the team. I felt that pick in that fourth quarter was terrible. Anyway.
Yeah, I think you're right. Falcons pass defense, I believe, is like 26 or 29.
Yes, with A.J. Terrell.
Yeah.
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 Sorry.
Yeah. On that George Kittle one in the corner of the end zone, I think George Kittle kind of messed that up when he was scrambling back, he came in, kind of pushed the corner off, then went back. That one I might put on George, but I think
I'm
you're
not putting
right.
it on any one person anymore. It's the whole freaking team. So yeah, definitely George gets some of that too. George,
Yeah.
I know you're watching George. So yeah, I mean, look, he wasn't flat out. I gave Kyle an F- yesterday.
F-.
So I thought Jimmy was definitely less the problem than Kyle.
Yeah.
Although that fourth quarter was pretty classic Jimmy, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. I'm leaning Kyle, and I'm looking forward to talking about that more because, I think there's a lot of things that we can touch on in regard to that. And it makes me wonder a little bit. At this point, I'm really just like frustrated with Kyle as an offensive coach. And I'm just wondering how much of this is Jimmy, how much of this is Kyle? Like, what's the ratio on blame that we can hand out here?
I feel at this point, I'm starting to feel like Jimmy's just a symptom. It's all Kyle. Kyle's the head coach. Why is Jimmy on the team? Because of Kyle.
Yeah.
Jimmy didn't want to be here.
Yeah.
And Kyle tried to replace him, but then in the last second lost his nerve. Didn't want Tom. Jimmy's the reason Kyle is the reason Jimmy's here. Straight up. If you think the Niners have a problem with their training staff, I don't know. I'm not qualified to say whether they're good or not, but Kyle hired him. The Niners had Mark Uyama, who is a good trainer. I think he won Trainer of the Year at one time. I think he's with Minnesota right now. I'll have to check this. But he fired him, brought in Ray Wright, fired him after 2 years, and hired Ben Peterson. So if you think that they're the problem, Kyle hired him. And then if you want to replace the training staff, then Kyle's going to hire the next one. Do you trust him? You know what I'm saying? Like, it all goes back to him. Yeah. And people always say, well, if Kyle just had this or if Kyle just had that, Kyle has all the power in the world. He has all the autonomy he could possibly want, and this is what he does. He's put together a good but flawed team. And I think the flaws are starting to outweigh the goodness that he put together.
Yeah. Well, I think we're going to dive into Kyle in more depth. I got so much on that. I'm really frustrated with Kyle Shanahan. But like I said, I think Jimmy played like Jimmy, maybe a couple more deep shots, a couple big time throws that he was trying to connect with. And maybe Kyle gave him the opportunity to do that finally. I don't know. But it all boils down to Kyle, common denominator. You were right, nailing that bar last 3 weeks.
I feel like I could just give Jimmy Garoppolo like a C+ every week.
Yeah.
He plays the same exact. He threw one to the defense. He does it every week. It's just whether the defense catches it or not. And he doesn't have any control of it. He does his part. He puts it right there for him. And they either get it or they don't. So I don't know. It's the same guy every week. And he should not be. The fact that the Niners have known for this long that he's not the guy and he's not good enough and he's still here, that's their fault.
Yeah.
When other teams that are good decide that this guy is just not the guy, they move on right away. It's like, why are you wasting everyone's time? Your time, his time, my time?
Yeah, and everyone's talking about how Jimmy's playing different this year. But I did the math after the game yesterday. He dropped from 5-1 to 2.3-1, which is closer to his career average. And I imagine as the season goes on, he's going to go back to the career average. He's trending 22 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. Last year he was 20 and 12. So it's all on par. It's the same Jimmy. He's playing the same way, essentially.
I mean, it was obvious yesterday. He was getting through the game, throwing screens. Eventually, he's going to have to throw the ball down the field. 2 picks. One wasn't a backbreaker, but still, that's gonna. I mean, it's like I've seen this movie before.
Yeah, but
pardon? No, go ahead.
I just think as bad as as bad or as good or as average as anyone thinks Jimmy is, I don't think this loss was on him for the first time in a long time. Usually when they lose, I'm like, Jimmy. I can point to Jimmy really easily. This time, I think that second half interception was all Jimmy. The rest of the stuff, I don't know if it really affected the game to where they're lose. I think there's other stuff, mostly Kyle Shanahan, that we can blame that loss.
Yeah, I would agree. I think, and I want to say last thing about Jimmy. I think we need to shift the conversation away from him.
Yeah.
He's the backup quarterback. We know who Jimmy is. I think the revelation, maybe not I'm having, but a lot of the fan base is having, is about Kyle.
Yeah.
We've all known about Jimmy Garoppolo, but the revelation right now is Kyle, that maybe he was fool's gold all along. And not just as a head coach, but as an offensive coordinator too.